following is a presentation of HBO Sports.
We are live from the MGM Grand Garden Arena, where the excitement for the third matchup between superstar Manny Pacquiao and his chief in-ring rival Juan Manuel Marquez continues to build. As has been the tradition for recent big fights, crowds began gathering for today's weigh-in early this morning. And now just moments from the fighters stepping onto the scales, the arena is jammed. Thousands of fans eager to cheer on their heroes. A short time ago, pound for pound king Manny Pacquiao, a congressman in his native Philippines, man has enjoyed a historic rise through the weight classes on his way to recognition as perhaps boxing's biggest star, and a huge raucous contingent of his countrymen have turned out to support his efforts here this weekend. They dominate the weigh-in crowd. Later, Juan Manuel Marquez, a future Hall of Famer in his own right. And this is greatness meeting greatness as the #1 Mexican fighter of this moment touches hands with the #1 Mexican fighter of all time, Julio Cesar Chavez. Marquez is armed with the knowledge that he gave Pacquiao all he could handle in their 2 previous bouts, and Mexican fight fans have turned out in force to see if their man can pull off the upset they crave. Hello again, I'm Jim Lampley, and we welcome you to our very first live weigh-in show. How appropriate that it is for the third fight between Filipino superstar Manny Pacquiao and his fiercest in-ring competitor, Mexico's Juan Manuel Marquez. Filipino and Mexican fans have been among the most prominent in turning big fight weigh-ins in recent years into major events all their own. Pacquiao and Marquez have twice fought before. In 2004, they met at 126 pounds and fought to a draw, despite the fact Marquez had to survive 3 first-round knockdowns. They met again in 2008, this time at 130 pounds, and Pacquiao emerged with a razor-thin split decision victory. Fighters have agreed to go this round at a 144-pound weight limit, and they're due on the scales at 6:15 Eastern Time. HBO boxing analyst Max Kellerman will be with us, reporting from the center of the action down below. And joining me now, legendary trainer Emmanuel Stewart, our world championship boxing expert. Emmanuel, what a thrill for us to be doing our first live weigh-in show. It's a catch weight, 144. A lot of people believe that this weight dramatically favors Manny Pacquiao. What's your take?
I think the weight definitely affects Marquez in the way his head to catch. I think it favors Manny because Manny has been fighting at a heavier weight for the last 3-4 years also. And I think about natural growth. Manny is about 8 pounds of natural strength and muscle, regardless of what they may weigh on the scales.
All right, Max Kellerman, as we've mentioned, is going to be sussing out those interviews that he can gather as the weigh-in goes on. Let's see who's with Max right now.
Freddie, this is the lightest that Pacquiao has been contracted to weigh in since the Ricky Hatton fight. What's the difference in terms of preparation?
Really no difference, because when Manny Pacquiao comes into camp, he's kind of light anyway. We have to feed him 5 times a day and feed him protein shakes to keep the weight on him, to keep the weight up for the heavier sparring partners and so forth. So it's really more of a natural weight for him, actually. He woke up this morning at 143.5 pounds, so no problem. Weight's not a problem at all. He just he comes in, he didn't miss a meal, and that's when Manny Pacquiao is really happy when he can eat throughout, and he had breakfast this morning, and he'll weigh about 43 this afternoon.
What's his best weight? He's fought so well at so many weights.
Going into the ring fight-wise, about 148, 149 seems to be his best fighting weight. I think when he gets up to 15, 51, he's a little slower and a little more sluggish. So 48, 49 seems like his ideal weight.
Based on this experience for this camp, would you going forward just train him how you like, and whatever he weighs in, or do you want him to put on that bulk?
No, we for the bigger sparring partners and so forth, we haven't put the bulk on a little bit just to keep it away. Because if Manny Pacquiao, if we let him just go without forcing him to eat too much, he'll go down to 138 really fast. And so we got to keep the weight on throughout. And then we start cutting back a little bit when the fight gets closer, of course. And but he's still eating a very healthy diet, and he doesn't miss a meal. And, when Manny Pacquiao, sometimes when he used to miss meals and he had to make weight and so forth, he couldn't eat. He was like angry and sluggish, and I thought for sure like he felt weak and so forth. Just mentally it killed him, So now that he can eat, when Manny Pacquiao can eat before the weigh-in and have breakfast and a light lunch, he's a happy guy. And when Manny Pacquiao's a happy guy, he fights like hell.
Thanks, Freddie. Jim?
All right, thanks very much, Max. We'll be going down there again later. Juan Manuel Marquez made one previous trip to the welterweight level against Floyd Mayweather a couple of years ago. He looked as though his feet were mired in quicksand, Emmanuel. This time around, he's hired a sophisticated, some say crooked, physical trainer named Angel Heredia. In one 8-week training cycle, can a physical trainer make a giant difference for a fighter like Marquez?
I think it could happen. It could make a difference. But when you look at the fact that he hasn't did this before, the last time he went up in weight, he did it where he said it wasn't unhealthy. I don't believe it's going to make that much of a difference. I believe that it's consistent with the personality of Marquez. He's always trying to get an edge, whether it's drinking his urine, going into the chamber, the oxygen chamber, training at 3 o'clock. So it's consistent with his personality, but I don't think it's going to help and make that much difference.
All right, let's take a look at what happened in their first two fights, Emmanuel. And, of course, the story is well known by now that Pacquiao was outworked by Marquez and out-techniqued by Marquez for much of the first two fights, but emerged with a draw and a 1-point victory, largely due to knockdown. Here's the first fight. In the first round, Marquez did not seem to be tuned in, Manny, to Pacquiao's speed and power with the left hand.
Well, Manny Pacquiao has tremendous punching power, particularly with his left hand. When he fights Marquez, Marquez thinks he's out of range, but Manny follows through so much with his left hand that he still contacts Marquez. That's the biggest problem that Marquez is going to have in this fight, is staying away from Pacquiao's left hand.
Has any fighter ever made a better comeback in a fight after being knocked down 3 times in the first round?
No, in fact, that's got to be Marquez's signature style of fighting, including the fight with Juan Diaz, as well as the fight with Katsidas. He fought better after he was knocked down.
And here's a summary of what happened in punch stat numbers in the first fight from CompuBox. You see that Marquez landed more punches, Pacquiao threw more, Marquez landed at a higher connect percentage, landed more power punches. Pacquiao won the fight with his jab and by staying on his feet. One of the most unusually scored fights of recent years. Bert Clements had it a draw. Guy Jutra, a French-Canadian judge, loved Marquez's counterpunching style. John Stewart, an American judge, liked Pacquiao's go-forward aggression. It wound up being a draw. Now let's see what happened in their second fight, where Marquez fought more carefully and once again won more rounds, but once again the difference was Pacquiao's punching power and his chin.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Out of 24 rounds of fighting, Marquez has been knocked down 4 times, and still the difference between the scorecards has only been 1 point, which means in Marquez's mind that he has won both of those fights. But tonight he will have his last and final chance to really redeem himself. If he can't do it tonight, he will always be remembered as loser to Manny Pacquiao.
Pacquiao fought with fury and passion down the stretch, as did Marquez. Both fighters were cut in the late rounds. Both fighters bled to the finish line. But at the end of the day, it was the knockdown in the 3rd round which provided Pacquiao with what became a 1-point split decision victory in the fight. And once again, as we look at the scorecards, it was 3 different ways of looking at the Blackbird. The CompuBox numbers again showed Marquez landing more punches, landing more power punches, throwing fewer, landing at a higher connect percentage. Pacquiao winning the fight with greater activity, more jabs, and of course the knockdown. 3 different ways of scoring the fight. Dwayne Ford scored it by 3 points for Pacquiao. Jerry Roth at the bottom scored it by 3 points for Marquez. Tom Miller broke the tie, 114-113 for Pacquiao, a 1-point win for Manny. Emmanuel, what is it about the mutual conspiracy of these two styles that creates such great fights?
Well, first of all, both of them are born 100% warriors. That you can't give. And they're both very good technical fighters, and they both have punching power. But the main thing I think is just the fire that's inside of those 2 guys. Anytime one gets the better of an exchange, the other wants to come right back and get even. And next thing you know, you got a war going on. I think that's what's going to happen tonight.
Here's one of the things I like to say about it, Emmanuel. Pacquiao is the best attacker in the sport, but he's also a great counterpuncher. Marquez is the best counterpuncher in the sport, but he's also a great attacker. How can you lose?
Well, it's going to be a great fight. I think the one difference is Manny has a lot of footwork. He has a lot of body rhythm, and he does everything from a rhythm, and that's what I think confuses and frustrates his opponents as the fight goes on, the movement, which very few people realize and give him credit for.
And of course, Manny is the more well-known star, the bigger draw, and most people believe naturally the larger man. So what do you think? Let's quickly take a look at votes cast by fans on the HBO Facebook page when they were asked, what they believe the result of Pacquiao-Marquez 3 will be, and you can see 66% of our respondents picking Manny Pacquiao to win by knockout. Max Kellerman, what do you think?
I think what everyone else thinks. The first two fights were great and incredibly close, and so we're here to see if they can do it again, make another great fight, preferably a close, hotly contested one. But since the end of their second fight, these two fighters have gone in different directions. Not that Marquez hasn't had success, but Pacquiao has had historically unprecedented success, beating the hell out of bigger fighters. As you can see there, hardly ever losing a moment, let alone a round, whereas Marquez, fighting smaller fighters than Pacquiao's been fighting, had a very tough fight. He had to get off the deck against Michael Katsidis, who's a good but not great fighter, and has had trouble with the likes of Juan Diaz, a young, energetic fighter, but not a big puncher. It looked like Marquez was rocked in that fight. It's not that Marquez's resume has been bad by any stretch of the imagination since the end of their second fight, but it pales in comparison to the historically great Pacquiao. Jim.
All right, thanks very much, Max Kellerman. Back up top with Emmanuel Stewart. Emmanuel, you talked about Juan Manuel Marquez's first visit to welterweight more than 2 years ago against Floyd Mayweather. It was a disaster for him, not least of all because Mayweather tricked him into believing that he was going to weigh in at 144 and then chose to weigh in at 146 instead. But the bottom line is Marquez didn't look like himself at the weight.
Well, I think it's a case of trying to put a Mack truck on a Volkswagen frame. It just doesn't work. And in the case of Mayweather, not only was he bigger, but very skillful, very good technical fighter. And as Marquez said, very frustrating to fight because Mayweather never would engage and never gave him nothing to counter off of. He would get plenty of punches to counter off of tomorrow night.
Here's an amazing statistic. In their first two fights, they fought 24 rounds. That's 72 judges' scorecards scoring each round. Marquez has won 41 of them, and yet he does not have a win yet. He has a draw and a loss, and if the first fight had technically been scored correctly, he'd have 2 one-point losses. How deeply must Juan Manuel Marquez burn for his chance one more time to get at Manny Pacquiao?
Jim, without a doubt, it's eating them up inside for more reasons than one. Not only just the frustration of losing the fights, but both of these guys fight for their country pride. Right now, Marquez is the #1 fighter in Mexico. It's been his dream to be the star by himself now. No longer Barrera or none of the other guys, Chavez. So he's fighting for his country fields. And Manny, natural, we all know the Phillies. So they both have a lot of pride going in this fight. And Marquez realizes if he doesn't win this fight here, he will never get another chance. It'll be like Alexis Aguero. As great he was, he'll always be remembered losing to Erlen Pryor. So that's the last chance for him. And he's got to win this fight. So he's going to fight with a lot of passion and determination.
5,500 people in the arena with us right now live for this weigh-in. They've had to close the doors and not allow anybody else in because this is the expected capacity for an event of this kind. And here's a shot of Juan Manuel Marquez backstage. This is a moment, Emmanuel, of tremendous excitement for the fighters. They're surrounded by well-wishers, by people in the boxing world. In both cases, they've been through this many times before, but nevertheless, there's excitement for them.
This is a lot of excitement. I'm just looking at this crowd right here for the weigh-in. It's better than most of the fights right here. And as you said earlier, this is a young, energetic crowd. I mean, it's totally different from what I've saw before. And it's just created excitement and electricity all throughout because it's a national pride. The Mexicans and the Filipinos mostly here. So this is a lot of excitement for everybody.
Yeah, and the Mexican-Filipino crowd synergy in Pacquiao's trilogy against Eric Morales, in his fight against Marco Antonio Barrera, and in his 2 previous fights against Marquez has been thrilling. Let's go to Michael Buffer now to get us started with the official weigh-in event.
HBO with the live broadcast of the official weigh-in for the HBO pay-per-view show. Manny Pacquiao taking on Juan Manuel Marquez. All the action is Saturday night, November 12th, and brought to you by Bob Arum's Top Rank Boxing, MP Promotions, and Marquez Boxing. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please welcome to the scales the challenger. He's a 3-time world champion, a future Hall of Famer from Ciudad de Mexico, ladies and gentlemen. His record, 52 victories, 38 by knockout. Here is Juan Manuel Dinamita Marquez. now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage and to the scales the reigning and defending WBO welterweight world champion, an 8-time world champion from Sarangani Province, Philippines, Manny Pacquiao.
Hoy pare, pakinggan niyo ako. Ito ng tunay na Pilipino. Galing sa baryo sa pagbato. Pumunta ng LA ni trabaho para makatulong sa nanay. Dahil sa hirap ng buhay, pero masaya pa rin ang kulay. Pag kumain, nagkakamay. Yung kanin, chicken adobo. Yung
Stepping onto the scales first, he officially is the challenger. Future Hall of Famer, 3-time world champion. Ciudad de Mexico. Juan Manuel Dinamito Marquez.
Ito ng tunay na Pilipino. Galing sa baryo sa pagbato. Pumunta ng LA ni trabaho para makatulong sa nanay. Dahil sa hirap ng buhay, pero masaya pa rin ang kulay. Pag kumain, nagkakamay. Yung kanin, chicken adobo. Yung balot, binibenta sa kanto. Tagay mo na nga ang baso.
142 pounds. Dinamita. And now stepping onto the scales from Sarangani Province, Philippines. Without a doubt, a future Hall of Famer also. 52 victories, including 38 wins by knockout. 53 victories, pardon me. 38 KOs, 8 times a world champion, the reigning and defending WBO welterweight champion of the world, Manny Pacquiao. 143 pounds.
So both fighters weigh in under the 144-pound limit. Emmanuel Stewart, how did they look?
They look excellent, superb. Both look very, very fit, and I think it was a good weight. I thought the best should come in, and both of them around about 140, 42 is a max. So that was very good. Not because the limit is 144, you have to make that weight. I think you weigh what you feel good at. But both of the fighters look very good.
An intelligent approach, neither fighter feeling the need to go up to 144 pounds. Both fighters are likely to put on some weight before tomorrow night, but neither one is going to be rehydrating 10, 12, 14 pounds overnight, as we've seen in so many other situations.
Yeah, but not in this case here. I think both of these guys are like struggling to get up to that weight. So I think, unlike most of the other fighters, I don't think they'll be over 150 pounds tomorrow. They won't pick up that much weight.
Quite frankly, they probably both ate breakfast this morning.
Yes, to make that much weight. Yeah, to get the weight up to that point. I think both guys are naturally a good 138 pounds. That's about their best weights normally.
Now let's watch the stare down here to see if they can muster anything like real malevolence, given how well they know each other. There's been a lot of talk in the Pacquiao camp about a burning desire.
Yeah, to knock out Marquez, maybe even in the first round. I would say mostly from Roach, not so much from Manny, but they want to make a statement. They want to do a good knockout early.
That was what I would call a very professional stare down. You know, they gave it just enough time for the photographers to get what they needed with the two faces facing each other, and I'm not even sure they made eye contact with one another.
They're professionals.
Both men know what they want to do tomorrow night.
Yeah, you know what? I hate to have those shutdowns when no one breaks up the fighters and they get into those prolonged, almost a minute or 2 minutes. And then sometimes it gets to be confrontational, words start coming between the two. That's why I always try to break the fighters up after about 30 seconds.
All right. Now we'll be waiting to see. In fact, we're ready right now. Let's go to Max Kellerman with both fighters.
Manny, you just told me you like this part. What about it do you like?
I like the fans screaming.
What's your reaction to this crowd? Your reaction to this enormous crowd just for a weigh-in?
Amazing. I really thankful to them because a lot of people coming to the win and, you know, I mean, excited. Everybody's excited.
Manny, you've beaten the best Mexican fighters of this era. But Mexican fight fans appreciate an action fighter like you. What do you think is your relationship to the Mexican fight fans here?
I'm just doing my job in the ring and no era mi intención pelear contra otro boxeador mexicano, pero así pasan las cosas. Muchas gracias.
You've decisively beaten everyone you've fought in recent years except this guy. What do you have to do differently in this fight to get another decisive win?
I need to do my best in the ring so people impress our performance and I don't want them to disappoint. So we will do our best and we train hard and ready to the fight.
About a day left before you fight. The weigh-in's over. What do you do for the next 24 hours? What lies ahead?
Just rest and you know, prepare for the battle for tomorrow.
Thanks, champ.
Thank you.
Juan Manuel, last time we saw you above 140 pounds was not one of your great performances. What difference will there be this time in terms of your weight and your preparation?
La diferencia que trabajé bastante fuerte. I worked very hard for this fight. Because this fight is the most important for my career and I'm working very hard.
Why is this the most important fight for your career?
Because I want to fight with the best pound-for-pound fighter. This is the most important fight for me.
Considering you believe, and many do, that you won the first two fights, what do you have to do to actually officially win this fight?
I need to win every round clearly, and I doing my job in the ring. Voy a hacer mi trabajo arriba del ring y hay que hacerlo, a ganar los rounds claros.
Do my job in the ring and win the rounds convincingly.
Thanks, champ. Nacho Beristain. Nacho, you're credited with modernizing Mexican boxing in terms of the skills and the technique that you bring. And Juan Manuel is like your masterpiece. What does this fight mean for Mexican boxing?
Significa todo. Creo que si en caso de un triunfo se le va a regalar a la gente, a los mexicanos y a los latinos, una gran victoria.
It means everything. And then when we win, it'll be a great fight for the fight fans, for the Mexicans, and for all fight fans and Latinos.
Thanks, Nacho. Jim?
All right, thanks very much. Emmanuel Stewart, preparing for a fight is an intense, enclosed experience, and fighters can get very nervous. This is an emotional high. They both look pretty relaxed. What are the next several hours like?
Jim, the next couple hours is just staying focused. And so many fans come in, you know, and so many personal things can get involved, calls. But both of these guys are experienced fighters. They both have over 50-some fights, which is a lot by today's standards. So I think they've been through this before. But did you notice how Marquez spoke English so nice and fluently, which means he's working on his image a lot in America.
All right, let's take a look at how they looked when they weighed in 7 years ago to fight at 126 pounds. And they were both superbly athletic, superbly conditioned fighters as featherweights on that day. Now let's take another look at how they look today. 16 and 17 pounds further up the weight scale. Pacquiao at 143, Marquez at 142, and still superbly conditioned, ultra-muscular athletes as they get ready to go. And a final comment here on the other giant boxing story of the week. And that, of course, the death, too soon, at age 67, of a truly great heavyweight champion, Joltin' Joe Frazier of Beaufort, South Carolina, and Philadelphia. Smokin' Joe. Let me correct that. Smokin' Joe, not Joltin' Joe, is a tremendous champion in his own right, not just the foil for Muhammad Ali in their great trilogy, the greatest trilogy in heavyweight boxing, but also a beloved champion for Americans and for fight fans all around the world. Joe, we miss you. And just to remind all you boxing fans, as a final farewell to Joe, Thrilla in Manila, our documentary, which aired on HBO within the past couple of years, will re-air tomorrow evening, Sunday, 2 nights from now, Sunday at 5:30 p.m. A last look at the Thrilla in Manila, an amazing documentary show. Thanks very much for being with us from here in Las Vegas. If you missed any of 24/7 Pacquiao-Marquez, we'll replay the first 3 episodes tonight, beginning at 7 p.m., leading up to the premiere of the series finale at 8:30 p.m. Immediately following 24/7, stick around for 24/7 Overtime, taking a look back at the series and a look ahead to the big matchup. Tomorrow, from noon to 6 p.m., join us on HBO Zone for 6 hours of uninterrupted Pacquiao-Marquez 3 programming, highlighted by our 1-hour preview show, Fight Day Now, at 4 p.m., featuring guest appearances by Mike Tyson, Charles Barkley, Marco Antonio Barrera, and many more. It all leads up to the third showdown between Manny Pacquiao and Juan Manuel Marquez, coming to you live tomorrow night on HBO pay-per-view. Next on HBO, East Coast viewers will see Ring Life, Pacquiao-Marquez, and on the West Coast, it's Prayer for a Perfect Season. So on behalf of the entire HBO sports team, I'm Jim Lampley, saying thanks for watching, everybody.
This has been a presentation of HBO Sports.